Welcome to Strength Chat with your host. That's right, myself, himself, the mad scientist of strength, Chris Duffin. To my right, I have the wizard of training, and to my far, far, far left today, I have the usual suspects, Dr. Rudolph, with us. So, we've had an interesting morning this morning, Rudy, on social media, in fact. So.
Yeah, it was kind of blowing up.
Yeah, so we have this gentleman. He's ordered several bars, and actually, it's kind of comedic. A little part of this story. He denies this story now, as of this morning. He says it never happened, but this individual will buy a bar and have it next day aired to wherever he's going next, and. Our creative director's like, "Can you believe that? Do you know how much money it's got to cost to next day air that?" And I'm like, "That's The Rock. I don't think he cares."
Oh, is that really who got it?
Yeah, so he owns three of them
cool.
now. So in different locations, and they've been popping up in his like Under Armour ad like photos and videos that he's been posting up the last. And we haven't reposted any of it yet or done anything, but it was interesting because this morning he actually called out our company name and the product name, so that's
freaking awesome.
That was pretty cool.
So super cool. The Transformer bar is is already popular now with what does he have, like 34 million followers?
No,
134 members.
138 million. So
why even count past that?
Yeah. So, but I think it speaks to it because he doesn't normally do stuff like that. He's affiliated with all the brands and things that he wants to represent. Like he's, a part of those. And so actually seeing him call out something that he's not affiliated with, I'm like, okay, we definitely must be doing, I already knew we were doing something right. And the fact that he owned three of them and probably going to be more based on his order frequency.
Well, there's gyms all over the world. Probably
Exactly. So it's basically, where's my next squat session going to happen at? Need one of these. Next day
I could see him being the kind of person who actually has that stuff delivered to locations where he is. You know what I mean?
No, that's what
he's so on point with his.
That's
what he's doing.
That's what it is. Yeah. So they'll go. We'll ship one to Georgia. We'll ship one to Hawaii. We'll ship one to they just wherever he's going to be at yet.
And actually, what's cool about the Transformer bar, it breaks down to a very small thing. Yep. So it's not like a normal size 45 or something. Yep. We have ours broke down, and then it's really easy to just put it together.
Yeah, that's actually one of the nice features about it. Yeah. So is you could throw it in a car, like any car.
You should come up with some type of like a carrying case for it, like a briefcase, and people could take it with them. That'd be sick, like a Johnny Cash style.
So I guess we'll go ahead and introduce our guest today. No, this is good. This is good. I love you weighing in. So today, really excited to have on Julian Smith, sometimes known as the Quad Guy. Well, his website's thequadguy.com. Yeah. So Julian and I've known each other for a few years now.
Yeah.
And Julian is, in the Portland area, definitely the most famous fitness celebrity for sure.
I don't know about that.
Is there somebody else I don't know about?
Well, you.
He's baiting you into saying that.
No.
He's like,
I only have the fraction of the following.
He has a shirt, greatest ever.
Yeah. I only have a fraction of the following that you do.
That's all good, man.
Yeah. So
fitness or fatness.
But for those that don't know, Julian competes on the natural side of bodybuilding.
Yes.
And
although I haven't competed in a while. But
and has been on the educational side of that, which is why it's great to talk to him. We don't really talk to a lot of, like, the last bodybuilder we talked to was Ben Pekulski. So
there you go. And I will say Ben is very similar to the style of training. I've always loved Ben Pekulski. His YouTube and everything that he does with the angles of the way that he trains is spot on. He's a big motivator in the way that I train, along with all the old school guys. But he's a cool dude. But when we were out here last, bodybuilding and powerlifting mixed so well with like the mobility side, what you're really known for as well, that was extremely beneficial for. I think bodybuilders and powerlifters try to keep their distance between each other, but there's so much you can really learn. That's why I like coming out here.
Yeah, what we focus on is, like, we do powerlifting. Well, I guess I don't technically do powerlifting anymore and haven't for a few years, but
you're a circus act.
I guess I do. I'm a circus performer.
You're one step away from Bud Jeffries.
So, which maybe that's why we had him on the podcast.
That's right. Yeah, you got to get some tips.
But it's about human movement principles, and it doesn't matter whether you're bodybuilding, strongman, powerlifting, or going to your job.
Yeah,
like I mean,
sure.
it's all the same stuff at the end of the day. And so when we try to differentiate it and go, it's this way, you know, I think we're maybe missing something.
Absolutely.
But Julian, you know, you've got an incredible Instagram following, probably because of like all those pictures of you looking lean and shredded and amazing all the time on that. But a lot of people may not know that you're a fatty.
I am a fatty.
Or we're a fatty. So
it's in there, man.
Let's talk about this a bit.
The genes are there.
So we were talking about this a little bit before, and I've talked about this a lot on my page. Like you said, I do a lot of educational style stuff. But one thing that was huge for me, and we were kind of talking in the beginning of this whole thing, that Instagram is really the issue in regards to, I would say, bodybuilding. Maybe not so much powerlifting. It's really bodybuilding, because bodybuilding in general,
even people that aren't bodybuilding, more just the interest in aesthetics and size.
totally.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say you never want to get on stage once, but you want to grow your chest.
Yeah.
You need to realize that diet is the most important thing in that. And when you talk about me being at like my heaviest, I used to be 260 pounds. I'm about 204, 205 right now. And walking around at 260 for 6 years straight, there was no foreseeable cut. I didn't care about how fat I looked on the beach in the summer. I knew that I wanted to put enough work in that when I finally dieted down one day, that I would have the muscle that I wanted. And just nobody does that nowadays.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you have to be fat, because when I was doing my 260 day, there was no flexible dieting back then. There was no macros. There was
I use the word fatty loosely. I mean, you weren't obese. But,
exactly, yeah.
But you had done the work to
Created
put.
bulk.
Compared to what people do nowadays, I was very heavy in my off season. Most people, when they and that kind of ties everything in, is like nowadays people want to put on 5 pounds in their off season, still have 6-pack. If the veins in my abs are gone, I'm fat. It's like that's just you're gonna spin your wheels.
But if you're
if
you're a $150 and you want to add muscle and you want to stay at 7% body fat,
I wouldn't do it.
Good luck, bro.
Yeah,
like
you're going to be the person who's jumping on somebody else. And I think what happens is it changes you into the kind of person who's like, I don't want to say like you shit talk, but I see it a lot. And it's usually the kids who are like in their teens. They've probably been doing it for a long period of time, not seeing the results, probably doing what you said, where they're trying to stay relatively lean. And they will be the people who start talking crap about, like, you know, natural bodybuilding. He's fucking lying, man. No way. Dude, if you eat right and don't worry about your abs and get into an off-season bulk for 6 years, you're going to see some pretty damn good results. As long as your training and diet and everything's on point. Can't just spin your wheels for that period of time.
Yep. I thought it was interesting. So I recently dropped a lot of weight, 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And so I posted up some side-by-side pictures of the transformation.
Yeah.
Wouldn't really call it a transformation because I didn't like add muscle, lose fat. I just stripped fat. But there's a few people in there that are just like, oh my God, how much growth hormone and insulin and trim did that take? I'm like, none. You really, I just lost fat. Like, that's just like called eating better in a deficit. I already had muscle mass.
Yeah.
All I was doing was cutting that off.
And just
all the muscle that you saw at the end was already there.
Yeah.
Like, and there may actually been a little bit of less because, I just dropped 50 pounds.
Exactly.
But that, there was people that clearly couldn't understand that. They were looking at that image going, oh, he's so muscular over here and ripped and shredded. Look at all that muscle he put on in a matter of 3 months.
And that's the weirdest part.
No, I did not add any muscle during that period.
Like I'll do those transformations and people will see like a picture of me. Let's say I'm like 260. Let's say I didn't have a number next to it and it just says, or just me at my heaviest and then me at my absolute lightest. People would see the picture on the right and go, dude, you're so much bigger than the way you were at the last. I'm about 70 pounds lighter.
Yep. Well, but that's what bodybuilding is in a nutshell, right?
Absolutely.
It's the effect of appearing
that makes it stand out.
Totally.
Appearing bigger.
Yeah. And that's really what it is. Like, I feel like when people meet me in person, I'm not going to say that I'm not trying to have people come up to me and like blow smoke up my ass, but like I'm a smaller person in person than I would think that you would see on stage, on like a bodybuilding stage. The art of bodybuilding, like you guys were mentioning, is looking at somebody on stage and go, that guy looks incredible.
Yep.
And it's also the art of looking as strong as possible. But when a bodybuilder is as lean as possible and they look their best, they're their weakest.
Yep.
So that's just the sport.
Yep. So, and like to that effect, like you look massive in those pictures, but if if you see you in person, if you had like a long sleeve shirt on or a sweater,
a normal person.
you would look like, I'd be like, oh, maybe he does CrossFit or something like that. You wouldn't be able to tie those images together.
Cut it. We're out of here. See ya. No, but that's a really good point, and I think a lot of people just need to accept that, because I remember my old coach, Scott Kluth. He's like one of the coolest dudes that I've ever met, and he used to help me a lot when I was really getting into this sport, especially like in my early and mid 20s. And I remember he used to say, he goes, when you're absolutely lean, he goes, we were on our way up to the Washington Ironman, the bodybuilding show, which I ended up winning the overall at. And he was telling me, he goes, Julian, he goes, you look, he goes, awesome. He goes, just do your normal thing. He's like, but, he goes, I'm going to tell you, he's like, when you get on, he's like, when you go weigh yourself in, he's like, because we always have like baggy shit on. Mm-hmm. He's like, you're going to look like, he goes, the men's physique guys are going to look bigger than you. And he goes, once you get there, and he goes, and then you strip all your clothes off, he goes, it's going to be a completely different thing. It's just the way that it is. Your face is sucked in, your eyes are pushed back a little bit, you're peaking for a show,
yep.
And you're, standing next to a normal person are going to look very gaunt and skinny. And then when you get on stage, and it's like, you could be 5 minutes, like me standing next to my dad getting a picture that I'm excited that he's here with me, and then I'm on stage, and you're like, Jesus, what are you, 250? Mm-hmm. No, dude, I'm like 190 max. So at 6 foot, that's pretty not huge.
So you said you mentioned reference your early to mid 20s. You look like you're 26 now. How
31.
31.
Thank you.
So,
I like this guy. But yeah.
But at my stage in life, you guys all look the same. If you're less than 60, you look the same. But anyway, you reference old school bodybuilding guys.
Yeah.
So when you were 25, 23, who were your idols in that? Who
so in bodybuilding, so I think a lot of people like now, and maybe it's just that time frame, because how old are you guys?
28.
Turning 42 in a couple weeks.
I mean, that's an era of people that probably really look up to, because I really look up. I have this firm belief that people in like the 26 and up their idols are always going to be the people that were not on social media. I like Tom Platz. He was one of the most hardcore bodybuilders ever, had the greatest legs, I believe, even nowadays. Him at his best, his legs are better than anybody nowadays. And it's just the old school guys. But nowadays you have kids that have like, they're growing up and I'm on Instagram. Or they don't know who Bill Pearl is. They don't know who these old school dudes are. But they're stoked on Steve Cook. Or they're stoked on me. Or they could be stoked on you. But like in the old days, like I was stoked on, I saw Pumping Iron. And you didn't have Facebook. We didn't have MySpace when I first saw my first bodybuilding stuff. I was watching Battle for the Olympias. That what's his name, Mitz Ukabe. He used to follow everybody around or something like that, and that's what I used to look up to.
The everybody that was in the Arnold Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding.
Basically, and, anybody in that.
Bill Pearl. Bill Pearl's book was a great one.
Yeah. And I think what was cool about that, and why I like those guys so much, is because they just they didn't really have like a baby attitude about things. Like they were the kind of people like Tom Platz. What I liked about him is he didn't really listen to anybody else. He has a really interesting article about how, I believe it was either Frank Zane or somebody went up to Tom Platz and was like, you shouldn't be squatting like that, man. He goes, you shouldn't do that. It's not how you train. And Tom, not in a mean way, but he's just throwing his advice out there. And Tom Platz was like, that's cool, I'm just going to do what works for me. And he continued training the way that he did, had the best legs ever. Flipped that whole thing around, and Frank Zane was the guy I read something about him, and he did an interview. I think it was one of his first YouTube that he did an interview on when he was older. But he talked about his core workout was sit-ups for an hour straight. Oof. Who could do? I can't do sit-ups for 5 minutes.
No, like, 5 reps. That's a genetic. That's a genetic.
Yeah,
thing.
He would keep going until he couldn't do one. Rest for 30 seconds, and just keep going. And his ab workout was an hour of sit-ups.
That sounds so boring.
Most people, exactly, and most people when they go do something, they want reps. Mm-hmm. I don't care what I do, I'm going to get 50 reps, even if it's easy. But he was saying, I'm going to do this for 1 hour straight. Same thing with like squatting. If there's times that I've trained in the past where like you might be doing a 25 on each side for squats, but do only a 25-pound on each side and then squat for 10 minutes straight. It's a really different thing, and that's what was cool about the old school guys. That's what I liked.
Let's talk about some cool things that you do, because there's some of the things that you do. So we're all about like quality. People always ask when we post up some of like our corrective or proprioceptive or spatial exercises or whatever, and it's like, well, what sets and reps? I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter. It's the amount of quality time that you spend in these positions.
Yeah.
So it's quality over quantity, and it's time in that
Absolutely.
matters. So it's a lot of really slow, focused
Yeah.
work. And you do some similar stuff.
Yeah.
Like you do some really challenging
And
movements that honestly a lot of people can't do.
Yeah. And also,
but you're open about that too. So.
exactly. I put disclaimers in a lot of stuff. Sissy squats, I don't know why a lot of people, I think it's the same concept. A lot of people who are maybe younger and they're getting into this sport, they're going to go to Instagram to find out who's doing what. You know what I mean? They're not going to flip open or do research on like Google images of like a bodybuilder from the 60s, but that's just the same concept because the slow and controlled movements, like all you need to do.
And that's exactly what I see you doing is like you get in great positions and you're really focused on that time that you're spending through those positions. And
you want to make everyone, let's say you're doing 12 reps. Most people are going to do something and say, it's kind of like let's say you have 10 sprints to do. The human nature, I believe a lot of people go nice and easy until those last couple, kind of like when the coach is watching kind of a thing, like, oh, he's watching, now we're going to go hard. And I think that's what a lot of people do with their training. But like when you do time and attention or those slow control movements, you want your first rep to be as hard as your last rep. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I want to avoid the pain. I'm just going to make those last couple burn. No, dude, each one of those should be extremely difficult. Don't focus. I'd rather have someone shoot for 12 reps and be working so hard on the first half of that set they only get 6. Then go for half-assed reps so they can get 12.
Yep.
So
When you talk about slow and control, you're talking about eccentric as well as the concentric.
Controlled, yeah, for sure. Because people are exploding up with the positive, it's a very important part. But like I do slow positives sometimes, slow positives, slow negatives, time pausing on the stretch, pausing on the contraction. The ISO holds, it's all control because you can't have poor form and do something and then have the control at the top of it. It all has to be slow so you can pause for the time period. Pause, you know what I mean? So that's the way but you guys do it too. You can't just drop in powerlifting with the kind of weight that you guys do because you need to keep yourself in proper form. If you catch a gust of wind and you're trying to drop down and just rock stuff out.
It's all about maintaining tension in the right areas.
Exactly, and that's exactly what bodybuilding is. If you do anything where the tension comes off, you need to adjust that a little bit. That's one thing that I've done in a lot of my training is just make sure that there's zero break. You know, even if it comes from like standing up on a squat and you have just a slight bend in your legs, so the tension is still there. It might not be the same tension from the mid or the bottom of the rep, but there's still tension in general. And that's the way that I really like to train. And I don't see it in bodybuilding anymore.
No, like I said, what I see you doing, that's why I love talking to you, is very different than what we see a lot of people in bodybuilding doing. And the movements that you do, the selection is really interesting as well. And I've stolen some stuff from you. You've stolen some stuff from me. Like
Absolutely.
I know, like it's gone.
Well, I think we were talking earlier about how redundant this sport is. And are there exercises that are way more beneficial than others? Absolutely. But if you have to do the same exercise over and over and over, I might get bored enough that I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So you might have your bread and butter movements that you're doing, but is it okay to throw variations in to keep your mind happy and keep your body guessing? Totally.
Absolutely.
I feel like people are like, bench or nothing, man. I'm like, okay, dude.
Oh,
like,
I get that.
I can't bench for 10
this all
years
the
in a
time.
row, man. Like, I need something different.
I had a question the other day because I posted up a video on my story of me bench pressing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm bench pressing again. It's been a couple years.
Yeah.
And I get this message, and it's like, how'd you maintain your pecs without benching? And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
They don't
really?
see a bench. They assume that
I'm
you're
like,
just not training.
You can't train the pecs without benching?
Yeah.
Like, I get the basic movements are, there for a reason,
Yeah.
but it's not the only way for development.
For sure.
And same thing, like Brandon and I talked, like, when we're periodizing movement, I just got my first week of training plan for the next year.
Yeah.
For a goal that I have. And there's a lot of different moves that we're going to be working through over the course of that that are all around building back my axial tolerance load for both intensity and volume. We're starting on the volume phase, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean back squat's the only way to do it.
Yeah. And sometimes when you do certain things like that, I always find that, like, let's say squats are your favorite movements for quads or in general. Let's say you're doing a wide stance squat and you're hitting more overall leg development. in my opinion, like, let's say you do 3 leg days in a row where you start with squats. That 4th leg day, don't start with squats, don't even do squats, and then do squats the leg day after that. You'll be so sore based off of that one movement. It's just because if you do it over and over and over, your body's like, bench again,
I think
squat again. Okay, we know
Brandon,
this is coming.
Good time for you to kind of weigh in on that discussion. a
Yeah, I
little
think
bit.
there's a real thing that is adaptive resistance to movements. You know, once you get so good at it after a while, you get good at coordinating your entire body to it, but maybe less good at it at using your actual muscles too. That's especially true for powerlifters. Like in a lot of our seminars, we'll have people just slow down and spend more time in the joint angles that they are faulting in, spend more time at the challenging positions, and just teach them how to use their legs.
Yeah.
You know, just press with your quads. And a lot of people don't really understand how to do that, even on some of our more trained strength athletes.
And it just, you know, when we talk about periodizing, you know, the specificity of movement as well, same thing. The same discussion comes in. It's not optimal to just stay with back squats year round, even though you may compete.
For sure.
Back squat.
Yeah, well, that's a big miss in planned training. You know, a lot of people talk about periodizing training. One half of that's potentiating a training, in fact, doing all squats. You know, if you're going to compete in the squat, the other half is maintaining what you've already done.
Yeah.
So we don't want to completely lose all of the things that we did, 2 blocks ago. We shouldn't do as much of it now, but we're still going to do some of it so that we can transition back to it eventually. And that's why having variety and having enough tools in the tool bag is necessary. And I think that's the cool thing about your training. With Ben's training we mentioned, and a lot of the old school guys, the thing that I love about them is they were so eager to experiment with new moves. There's not a ton of experimenting going on anymore with.
I think that's one of the coolest. I mean, that's extremely well said.
I can't fathom the amount of experimenting you have to do to just post the new stuff, because I know that you've got to play with stuff and go,
Totally.
yeah, that doesn't work.
Oh yeah, there's been plenty of things that I've done. I'm like, that just doesn't feel right. I'll scrap it and move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the only reason there's variation that obviously there's variations that can put a little bit more focus on certain areas more than the bread and butter ones. But yeah, the lack of like, I think it comes back to the social media thing. Like people will get on there and they're gonna say, oh, you're doing this? Well, I just looked over on this guy's page. He said that's stupid.
Yeah.
It's like, who the fuck is the other guy?
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the F. But you know what I mean? Like, I think that's one thing that instead of going and like learning, most people have done this. So I've been lifting for 16 years, bodybuilding for like 13. And I have learned so much from other people. I did not just learn all this on my own. I've learned and I've adapted and I've done a lot of training. Like I said, Ben Pekoski, I love the old school guys. A lot of new Charles Glass. He's like the king of like variation. I love the kind of shit I love that style of training. But people are just so quick to not try it for themselves. Like when I do 50, 60, 100 rep squats, people are so quick to just find the reason why they don't want to do that shit.
Yeah.
Oh no, F that. Nope. 12 reps or less, it's like, try it, dude.
Yep.
It's too hard.
So address this. So Chris and I were in Florida a week before last visiting a bunch of major league teams and NFL teams. And we're training along the way whenever we can. We found a couple of nice powerlifting gyms. One that claims to be the oldest powerlifting gym in the world.
What's it called?
It's called All-American Gym.
Huh.
But at any rate, one of the last days we were driving a long drive from like Sarasota to Clearwater, and we just wanted to get some movement in. So we stopped in a commercial gym.
Yeah.
One of the big ones. But what struck me is we go in there, and there's all these persons that look like olives on toothpicks. They're all walking around. They've got, their chest up and their shoulders back, and they're pumping the arm. And there's one squat rack, and believe it or not, there's a guy doing curls in the squat rack.
Yeah.
That was it. We joke about that, but that was exactly what was happening here.
That's a Globo gym in Miami. I mean, it's what you would expect to. It was entertaining. People watching.
Talk to the general pop how important it is to train. You're the quad guy. Where does the bulk come from? Where, how do you look great overall? And you just can't walk around with a white beater.
So that's like, I believe like true powerlifting is working on your squat, bench, and your deadlift. Even if you're way better at, for me, I'm a bodybuilder. I'm training my entire body, but my arms and my legs are way better than the rest of my body. But powerlifting, you might squat, bench, deadlift, but what if you're really good at deadlifting? Doesn't mean you don't work on the other stuff, But there are some bodybuilders who walk in there and maybe they're not even called bodybuilders because if you're not training your body, you're an upper bodybuilder.
I like that.
You like that?
I do. Oh, you're an upper
You're an upper
bodybuilder.
bodybuilder.
Yeah,
Exactly.
got
You're
it,
an upper
got
bodybuilder and sometimes calves. But goddamn, I'm not going to do quads.
Well, isn't that doesn't that align with that new division where they wear board shorts? So,
Well, but so you have so that's a good point. Like there's like the top dog. Who just won last year for men's physique? As the black guy. He got second the year prior. He looked incredible and he has insane legs.
Okay.
You have the top guys. And you look at those physique dudes because you know what they were doing before men's physique was a thing? They had to get ready for bodybuilding.
Yep.
And then they have that leg training because but now you have this up and coming group of people, and there's a lot of people who get on stage for of men's physique, and you just look at them and you're like, man, those are some baggy shorts. Those are some baggy shorts, man. And you just know that they're just
sweatpants.
Yeah, exactly. So, but there's definitely some people who put in the work, and that comes back to I believe it's the older people because they don't want to just get some veins in their arms and have a nice chest and call it good for social media. Most bodybuilders who are older have looked up to the people like Coleman. Mm-hmm. You see those dudes moving some serious weight down in Texas in over 100 degrees weather, and it's running off their face. Have you ever lifted in that kind of weather?
I have, and
it is
we can't even stand in it.
I don't know how.
Casey and I were down.
I have no clue how people do that.
It's crazy. When we were down in Key West on a vacation, there's a place called Old Town Fitness. Wasn't that hot? What would you say, 90s? It was just Florida, South Florida, right? It was so hot. I was drinking. I probably would. So humid.
Yeah.
You walk in, you're immediately soaked. And by the time the entire workout was done, I would say I drank 4 32-ounce shaker cups. Because the second you down it, it's all out your pores. And that's the level of heat. But that level of hardcore, Coleman's he's getting ready for the Olympia. It's not just half-ass working out to look good. And he needs to get on stage.
And he still trains in that same gym with no AC.
For sure, he don't care. And I think that's the stuff that a lot of our generation or the older group of people are growing up with.
Well, I didn't really realize why all the early morning training amongst bodybuilders until I went down. It was 2 years ago or something. I went down and trained with Mike O'Hearn. He's like, no, we go at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I go down there and I realize, oh, this is why. That's why they'll do it. Avoid the crowd, but also the heat.
Yeah.
Is definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's
because nobody had any.
Yeah. We even do those open gyms at our gym in the summer, and we'll roll the garage door up. It sucks the AC out of that place so fast. It's it's hotter inside because it's all condensed. But I don't know. What were you saying again? I want to get back to that about the kids today and leg training.
Them to train their entire body, not just to be upper bodybuilders. How important is it to train the whole body?
It's the most important part, and having the well-rounded look is obviously good for bodybuilding in general. But skipping your lower body is going to minimize the growth that you're going to see in your upper body.
Well, this is so actually just along those lines. So if we look at the research on the BFR training, how do they affect the shoulder? They actually do the BFR training on the leg to induce healing in the shoulder because all the IGF, GFR, all the release goes into the system and works on everything, and that's the best way to cue that growth hormone release through the entire body.
Yeah.
Because they can't actually separate out the shoulder with BFR.
It's not just localized.
So it's not localized, and so they just go straight to the leg.
For sure.
And it's well, that doesn't make sense. Well, yeah, it does.
It does, exactly. And I think there's so much, even if you hate, because there's so many people who hate training. There's very few people in the world who are like, man, I really love training legs. But it's like the person on your football team or your wrestling team.
I hate training legs, but I love squatting.
There you go. See? Exactly. Leg training is brutal, and I enjoy a nice squat. You know what I mean? I enjoy driving home. But I think there's a lot of people who just kind of, it's
too hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and no one's walking out of a gym and someone's going, dude, nice quads, man. Everyone's always talking about the arms or leaner in your face or your chest looks good or you have vascularity. No one is getting and I think that's what people want. Yeah. They want to be verified, and they want people that like tell them that, oh, you look awesome and stuff, and they're not going to get it from their legs. You know what I mean?
But they look so ridiculous when they look like an olive on a toothpick.
I agree too.
So,
And if you have any desire
We're in the
to,
gym and Rudy walks up to me. He's like, "Look around, look at this."
and I think that if you have
it's
any desire to get on stage,
Did you listen to any of the conversations they have where they were giving each other advice on things and stuff? It was really entertaining.
that's brutal.
Oh yeah, I just like I'm gonna just.
It's a different
I'm
world.
I literally started closing my eyes during my sets while I was there because I couldn't it was so distracting.
Yeah.
Like to me, like I couldn't focus.
Darrington used to do that here. I wonder if that was why.
Maybe.
'Cause we were all giving bad advice to everyone.
Maybe just like I gotta shut this out, so I can get my set done and actually focus.
Well, it's like the blind leading the blind because you have someone who might have seen good results but lifted like a total idiot his whole life because genetics will play an important role. Like if you are not like you guys mentioned how I control my reps and I have really good form with the way that I conduct all my exercises. But have you ever seen somebody who lifts like a total idiot, but they have an incredible physique?
Yep.
That's the person who's telling somebody like this is the way you train. They're like totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I should be doing. But there might just be a genetic like part of that that's making them see the results that they want. But it's just the blind leading the blind.
Or there may be some negative stuff going on that they don't quite realize. Like on the same trip last week, Rudy and I were commenting, I'm going into my 4th decade of training here. 42 years older in a couple weeks. Rudy's turning 70 in a couple weeks as well. And we're reflecting back because we're driving all over the place, these long drives. We're training before and after it. And we're like, God, you remember when we used to like dread like jumping out of a car and doing a training session after a drive, or doing a training session and jumping in a car, or just driving itself? We'd be in so much like back pain. You've got to have your heat pack. You got to stop and get out and stretch, and you're like, and now it's like, that was when I was a 500-pound deadlifter in my 20s.
Yeah.
And now I'm over 40 with a deadlift substantially higher than 500.
Yeah.
And I don't have any of that. And Rudy, same thing. You're like, right?
And I did all the driving. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it works when we travel. I
Yeah.
don't drive. I don't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, when you move better, then you don't have that pain.
it doesn't. We're a decade older, lifting way more weights, and not having that.
Yeah. Every time that I have ever been hurt has been in my early 20s lifting like an idiot.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the case. And when you have a slowed down rep and it's nice and controlled, your muscles are what's working, not your tendons or joints taking over trying to get the weight off you, because it's always going to turn into fight or flight. If you have like too much weight on the bar and you're like, oh man, I'm not going to do this benching. I mean, I would honestly say you guys can probably agree with this, but like anybody that I have talked to, I want to say anybody. Sorry, I didn't mean to touch your hand there.
No, you did.
Yeah, it's all right. I did. Anyone caught that? But I would say anybody
the
who
video.
has that like front delt pec tear, bench press. I can't think. I mean, there's a lot of people who do it on stuff, but it's benching movements, and it's because it's too heavy. And same thing with squats. You're using too much weight that your form might be perfect when it was lighter, and then you start upping the weight to break the ego record or whatever your homie did, and then you have to adjust to get that up, and that's when you hurt yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So all those like if you bench and maintain and control the shoulder position, risk of injury is really minimal.
Yeah.
But the slightest bit of fatigue or approaching a load max, it's very subtle, but you just lose that position a little bit, and then now we're in a position where we have that injury potential potentiated.
I hear doing iron crosses is good for pec miners.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, let's pull that video.
Yep. Sternal and clavicular head. Yeah. Anyway, that was stupid.
Did you do an iron cross?
Almost.
For like a little bit.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you have a video of that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to see that
I
after
was
this.
ours down
Oh,
through
man.
here. So yeah, he was filming it.
Oh.
Yeah. And of course this was
It was
like,
after
I was
benching.
very so yeah. This is back when we did shirt benching stuff, right? Too. So I worked up to like 650 for like a triple. Then I took the shirt off and hit 405 for like a bunch of sets of 5, and then I was on the rings, and I like went to failure on flies, right?
Yeah.
So just completely fatigued. I'm like, I'll see if I can
Fuck
do
it.
an iron cross.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never done one at 250 pounds.
Yeah.
Completely fatigued, and yep.
Instantly.
Instantly
Really?
lost the sternal and clavicular head.
I'm looking through the camera and
So.
I see this ripple and he drops to the floor. It was just
Oh my god.
That was about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
It'll
We'll
scare
put
the hell
together
out
a
of me.
compilation of all your tears.
Yeah.
There's been some good ones.
There's some, yeah. So I still injure myself. But now it's not necessarily bad movement, but like doing things to actually explore the limits of what the human body and mind are capable of with some of the feats of strength. And I know that going in.
Yeah.
And then I accept those consequences as they're associated with it. But that's where I'm at. I'm pushing those limits because I'm also exploring how we do our rehab, our prehab, those sorts of things, our movement preparation to get to a point. So like even when I deadlifted 880 every day for 17 days, tore my hamstring on day 17 as I locked it out, I pulled 880 pounds every single day.
Yeah.
No one's ever come close to doing anything like that and would tell you that it's completely like impossible.
Yeah.
Whether I only did it for 5 days.
Yeah.
Or 7 days.
Well,
10 days, let alone 17. And so, but in the process, every time I do this, I learn more.
Yeah. Well, you
And
learn more
can't-
from failure than you do
can't,
from
you
winning.
can't learn unless you're that level, unless you're experiencing in the middle of it. Like when I squatted 800 every day for 30 days, like I discovered new ways of being able to manage and treat the tissues in a different manner than we had ever done before. And I've explored those concepts with some of the, the leaders in the industry on that side.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just really, really, it's part of the process, and that's what I do.
And maybe that's
and I have to accept those consequences. So,
but I think that's also one of the things that people are lacking. Like you were saying, it kind of is all playing hand in hand, but it's like you're trying something that maybe other people wouldn't normally do. People nowadays are just not doing anything.
Yep.
And there's a really weird thing going on in like the powerlifting, not powerlifting, I would say bodybuilding world, where no one's really learning how to bodybuild. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You have, I don't want to be like overly like pokey with this, but in like most bodybuilders, nowadays have a coach that gets them ready to get on stage. Mm-hmm. But that person getting on stage would be lost without the person above them. So you have this incredible physique, and you're like, you can't even diet yourself down, dude. Like, that's 101 bodybuilding, man. Figure the shit out. You should be your own coach. You don't know how to look in your own mirror and say, got fat on my ass, let's adjust. Like, people need to figure that stuff out. And obviously you have to get to that point. But you should be wanting to learn so you do it yourself. Do you want to pay a guy $1,500 every single time you cut for something? You want to learn.
Yeah, and so like my photo shoot stuff that I've done the last few years, and I did one recently, each time I'll work with somebody in the industry to kind of guide me a little bit, and I'll tell them what my plan is, how I've done it before, and I'll take that and learn from it.
Totally.
And then add to the next.
Yeah.
And now, I'm actually planning on doing another one here in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And just manage it myself between, me and my wife, because she does all the cooking and making sure that my macros and everything are where I need to, I need to be doing when I'm actually prepping for something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And, but like, and I'm very open with the coach. Like, I want to learn, my plan is not to use you every time, and that's fine. Like, you should be educating, right, as a coach as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
But the problem is everyone keeps you in the dark.
Yeah.
Because they want you to come back. Yeah. That's how they don't work anymore. So when I used to coach people online, and this was years ago, but when I would coach people online, a big part of my communication with the people was telling them is like, as much as I love working with you, my goal is that you do your own thing. I mean, I'm not trying to do this so you need me for the rest of your life.
This isn't a bodybuilding thing only either. Like, this is
for sure.
So a lot of chiropractors, for example, we could pick on any of these professions.
Yeah.
There's a number of them that are trained in whole sales tactics and stuff. Like, you come in and for a session, and their goal is to sell you on a 8-12 week package of stuff, and where their goal should actually be to treat you in that one session and hope never see you again.
But I've never.
And then if they need to see you a second time, same thing. Goal is not to see you again.
Yeah.
But
fix me.
But people that don't have that level of skill have to.
Yeah.
They can't, because when you do that, you build a name. Yeah. And then you can build something viable like you've done. Yeah. Or what we've done, where people are going to come to you because they know you're going to deliver the results. But if you don't, you've got to try to maximize as much as you can off of that one client you've got.
It kind of both works, but one is going to...
The second is just unethical and shady, in my opinion.
Exactly. So there's two options. You could keep your clients in the dark and continually get money forever. It could be a short-term business model, but if you're doing more along the lines of educating. I want you to get better. That's word of mouth. That's going to grow your business more than anything. Not, yeah, I keep seeing this chiropractor and I'm been doing it for 3 years and my back's not better. I went to this chiropractor and he freaking fixed me after the second try. You'd be like, I'm gonna check that guy out.
Yep. And he empowered you with the tools.
Exactly.
To go, here's how I go do this on my own.
Yeah.
And manage and own it myself.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Which is
Not
super
just fixed,
beneficial.
but he gave me the tools to.
Yeah, it's what's the old analogy with the fish or the fishing pole?
Yeah.
Give someone a fish, they'll
yeah.
eat today. Give them a fishing pole, or teach them how to fish. They can,
Yeah.
they don't eat forever, something like that.
Yeah.
I said that really wrong.
Well,
Yeah, we
you know,
get
we're
it.
kind of
We get
we're
it.
kind of bouncing into business discussions,
Yes,
and
sir.
I think you have a lot of value to add to the discussion around basically building. Well, when you've recently opened your own gym. I know it's private, but you're one of the first people to launch like this. I don't know what you call it, subscription based.
Yeah, membership subscription model.
Model.
Yeah.
So way before like a bunch of other people, it's a common thing to do now.
Yeah.
We've got one very different product than yours, obviously.
Yeah.
But you've also done a fantastic job of promoting and building your own brand.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, can you talk to us about like how you went about that and like
Yeah.
tips that would be useful for other people that want to do it and do it in an ethical and viable manner? Because there's
For
ways
sure.
to do it without.
And honestly, I'm in the bodybuilding world. I don't know if I'm not super familiar with like the powerlifting scene and what goes on because I could probably talk to you guys about it.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So like it's the same concept. Like bodybuilders, they're like as easy. I mean, it's as quick as possible that they want to sell you some type of a snake oil to give you something. And when we started doing, just to make a quick buck, we've been seeing it all over the fitness industry. People are, getting outed for their bullshit and all this stuff. And Casey and I, we do all of our work together, and we're really confident in what we do because we're not ripping anybody off. And we've never put ourselves in a position where there's a fitness influencer right now who basically took, I don't know how much money it was, but many clients. I'm talking like, I would assume hundreds, and did not give them anything. Took the money, that was the end of it.
Yeah, this
And it was really weird.
Yeah, this just got popularized, right?
Yeah.
So I think
Or
there's
it's
a
not
lot
so
of that
much-
going on. This
Yes.
one just got called out.
Exactly. And I don't think it's really been popular. I think it's been happening forever, and now people are like, I'm tired of this shit, man. Like, and there's now people, like the smaller people who might not have, 500 million, 5 million platform. They might have 500 followers, but guess what? If you rip them off, they're going to find out how to get you out of here. And that's what we don't need. But when Casey and I made like the membership site.
So just for our audience,
Yeah.
Casey is your girlfriend and business partner.
Yes.
She's sitting in the room here with us.
Yeah, so I'll be directing stuff over to her, but she won't be talking. Yeah. Or she'll give me the thumbs up like I said that right or not.
She's
Yeah.
a fantastic woman.
Yeah,
Love,
yeah.
love having her come.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah. But when Casey and I first made the membership site, we wanted something because bodybuilding is extremely expensive. And I wanted to do something because diet, supplements, a gym membership, clothes, all the crap that goes into being a bodybuilder or a powerlifter is extremely expensive. So when we first did the membership site, I was like, I want to have so much damn information on this site that when people go in there, they're like, you should charge $50 for this. This is unreal that you're doing this for $6. And I go, I'm happy with $6. Have fun. We're to the point where we're coming up on 1,000 videos inside the site, new workouts. We're going to be revamping. We already revamped the site, but we're going to be doing some more stuff down the line where instead of just the daily pump workout, which is my workout, we're going to do 3 or so other options for the people that can't do exactly what I do. So I want it to be the one-stop shop for everything in regards to bodybuilding. And when you have an actual knowledge for something, there's a lot of people in the fitness industry that have the knowledge. You have the knowledge for all this type of stuff. When you have the knowledge for something, you can offer something really cheap for people because people are going to enjoy it. It's the word of mouth. No one came into my site and be like, I got ripped off immediately. I wouldn't do that. They go in there and they go, Jesus, man, there's a lot more than I thought was in here. And that's what we wanted. Give, get everybody excited. And there's no weird gray area where it's like, I've touched your hand so many times in this meeting. I'm going to just touch you now.
You know,
Sorry.
that's actually, we actually
Bonding.
Yeah.
we actually just had some like
bonding.
business validation of that. So
Yeah.
like we work for our financing is through a company called Klarno, and we publish this. Like if you want to buy our products, they're expensive.
Yeah.
So you can break down the payments with Klarno. They don't normally offer any financing for non-hard goods. So educational products.
Oh, yeah.
No go.
Not for
right?
services, right?
Not for services. But now we've got a long-standing history, and they see stuff going through our site. nobody asks for a refund from our seminars.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So they've actually gone out and said, we'll provide financing for your seminars because it's this is not a risk-based item because, we don't have people come back, well, that wasn't worth it or this, but, it's a.
And honestly, I feel like that's one of the issues in like this whole thing is when you're giving out good information or you're giving out a good quality product, everyone's on the same page. You'll never come to our page and see people like talking shit because when you don't do anything weird, no one has a reason to really get upset. What, you're mad that I'm claiming natural? Well, I'm natural, and if you want to drug test me, you can. But that's the only thing you're really going to be mad about.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to be mad at me with my views on politics. You're not going to be mad at this. This is bodybuilding, what I'm showing you. And all the information that I put out there is everything that I know.
So I think you're skipping over an important component, though, around building the audience base is you provide a ton of this education for free.
Yeah.
So on your channels, you post the videos that, it's not clearly nowhere close to what you would have in your, your paid product, but you put out free information that you just put out there and answer a lot of questions on IG Live regularly.
Yeah.
Those are some important pieces like, adding value to your end customer without asking anything in return. Well,
at the end of the day, if somebody tries something and they get a good result from it, they might buy something down the line. It could be a hat, it could be a membership to your site, it could be, hey, I know what I'm doing, but I'm going to tell my little brother to try your site or something. It's just the building the rapport of like people all on the same page. But you're absolutely right, because if you do it the wrong way, I think people see social media now, because when I first got Instagram, there was no money to be made. You just kind of post your pictures and you wanted a following, regardless of that meaning money came in or not. I just wanted a K. As I kept saying, I wanted a K next to the 10. I just want a fucking K. I actually joked about shutting it off afterwards. Okay. But it's actually funny because...
Now you got the M.
Now I got the M. Now I need a B. Just kidding. But what's really funny is back then people got on Instagram and they just put out content because they didn't really know that they could make money. Mm-hmm. But now I think everybody knows you could potentially make some money. So regardless of having a following, regardless of giving out good quality info to your subscribers, regardless of being a good fucking person, they have 500 followers and they're immediately asking for people to buy shit from them. Mm-hmm. You have yet to prove yourself. You're 17 years old. You're small. No offense, but most I'm not gonna.
I know. I get these they'll like comment on like one of my threads, like, hey, I offer coaching and blah 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 blah.
They're advertising on
and
your thing.
I'm like, I click through and it's like some 18-year-old like with I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like
because if
you need some time in the industry, man. Yeah. Like just coaching people,
so
like go
many
get a job at 24-hour or wherever. And
we all did it.
You gotta get your time in.
And I think the problem is people want to get that Instagram fame immediately, and they just want money. They just want to start getting that money and whatever makes it happen. And to be honest, Case, I talk about this a lot, but when we first launched the site, it was extremely disappointing. We had a pre-subscriber list for people to sign up, and it was a fraction of that. It was so much. How many people were on the subscriber list? 300? Yeah. And then how many signed up?
The first day was 33 people.
33 people. And I was like, well, and that's when I was working in my family's trucking company. I'm like, still doing this. And you start thinking like, okay, but I didn't give up. We just kept doing it. And I've been doing the same level of free videos, free workouts, free all this stuff. I didn't launch a membership. We didn't do the membership site until I had 50,000 followers. I didn't want to offer anything until I actually had a reputation behind my name. You don't want to be the person who is immediately on social media. You have 3 pictures. DM for customized meal plans. Shut the hell up, man. I know your coach, jackass. Like you have a coach, man. So that's what irritates me. But
the consumer can sense too when your goal is to make money or / rip them off.
Well,
if your model is based on something that is truly in your heart. For example, at Kabuki Strength, we know, everybody in our company knows our why. Why are we in business? It's not so we can make money. It's so we can make the world a better place through strength. That's and everything we do, everything we make is all focused on that. Just like you're saying, you're focused on showing people how to be the best bodybuilder they can be.
Yeah.
That's your goal.
And
it gives you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. And when I first got into bodybuilding, I'm not going to name the guy's name because it'll just give him a reason to, I don't know, talk to me. But when I first got into, I've talked about this before, but I had a terrible experience with like a local bodybuilder before social media, before I guess it was technically around the Facebook scene when it first came out. But I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. I'm a kid who's been in this for a few years, and I wanted to talk to the local badass about what I should do to get ready for my first show at 19 years old. And he was a total dickhead to me. Like a dickhead. Like he was like, I went up to him, I was like, he's at the vitamin shop. I went up to the manager and I was like, hey, do you think I can talk to him? Like, I know he's busy right now, but like, I'm getting ready for my first show. I really would like as much advice as possible. I swear to God, the manager went up to the guy, tapped him like on the shoulder, and he turns around, looks at me and was like, shrugged me off, man. Yeah, and he's like, and I think I've talked about this a lot because all I wanted, most kids just want to look the way that they want to do. Whether you want to lose weight or add a little size to your arm, you might not want to be Ronnie Coleman, but you might want to have, filling out your sleeves a little bit more, you know what I mean? And I would rather people feel better about how they look. You have to admit, there's probably been a time in all your guys' lives where you looked in the mirror and were like, man, I'm not really stoked on like how I look. But when you like how you look, or you're happy with your performance or your lift, you're a different person. You're stoked, you're happy.
Your self-confidence.
Your self-confidence is going up, and I'd rather have a bunch of people who maybe didn't buy any of my shit, but their life got better somehow. Skin cleared up because you got into working out for once. Cool. Never got on stage once, but you lost 100 pounds. I'm happy with that. I would rather people get to a point where they're absolutely happy with how they look than only get money from somebody. You know what I mean?
And this goes to kind of the last point I wanted to make, and you can hear it in you speaking on this topic, is being authentic on these platforms.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people kind of create these fake personas or try to be this other thing, and I think that people can see through that, and you need to be your authentic self.
Well, you want to hear people talk.
Yeah.
You know, I like hearing you talk. I like watching the podcast. I like hearing people speak. I'm a big believer. If you're not doing anything where you're speaking, you're fucking weird. Not to be rude, but when Instagram stories came out, where people are allowed to like start, it's not Snapchat now, it's on Instagram. What was that, last year, 2 years ago, something like that? When they first did it, a lot of people started doing it. I'm like, unfollow. I was going through the list. I'm like, these people, because you finally see them speak.
Yep.
And you're like, you seem weird as hell. You are so authentic. You look like you're selling me something. This is weird. And that's when you start seeing people on podcasts and you can hear how they talk, you'd have to be a sociopath or something to really like trick multiple people on every platform that you go to. You know what I mean? So the authentic side of people will come out eventually.
Yep.
For
exactly.
Sure. So that's how I feel.
That's just don't try to be something you're not.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've had a few people get salty over some of my memes and stuff I post up on occasion. I'm like, you know what? That's like my humor, and I'm gonna put it up. Like,
and it's your page, dude.
And so that's part of that's part of it, and that's part of who I am. So
it's like me with the cigars. Case and I, we smoke marijuana. We do all. I mean, we're in Oregon, dude. Like, we don't even make a big deal about it because it's not a big deal. I'm 31, dude. I'm not gonna start talking about like, smoking a cigar like I'm a badass 18-year-old. It's just like, dude, I smoke a cigar, and if you don't like it, that's okay. But the authentic side,
I have to keep the THC to like right before bed now that I'm lean.
That's what we do. Yeah,
because I used to go like take some when I get home, but then by the time it's like bedtime, I'm like, I need another meal.
Yeah. You got to get that.
I can't. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just gonna move this to right before bed so I can fall asleep. When I'm hungry, I'm asleep.
That's how you made that before picture, huh?
Yes, it definitely was a player in it.
But what's cool about like you doing the memes? That's a way for maybe certain people to look at you and go, I'm not going to follow this guy anymore. It's not my cup of tea. Yep. Or a group of people are like, dude, I love this guy more. I love the kind of shit that he's saying. Yep. So as much as
most of the responses
is good.
Is that.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people are like, that's
dude,
not
I
for
get
me.
people
like,
all the
okay,
time.
That's fine.
They will write me after I do a live and they go, you should stop smoking cigars. It's extremely bad for you. Going, no, it's bad for me, man. But we all have shit that we do that we're not. You're telling me that you don't do anything? Like, okay.
I had somebody go off on me about the whole whiskey and deadlift thing about how I was promoting alcohol. And I'm like,
you deadlifted 880 for 17 days.
I'm like, did you read my article? I suggested a shot or two, like once or twice a month. If you think that that's like, oh yeah, you shouldn't. You got kids watching your da da da, and I'm like, dude,
probably the same guy.
You need to rethink life a little bit, maybe.
Your disclaimers all through that.
I know.
Well, they're probably the person who sees you take a shot, and then all they do is just got drunk every day before they worked out. They're like, this is ridiculous. It's like, dude, read it,
No, it
man.
was somebody like, you shouldn't, like, you be posting anything about alcohol because it's bad for you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm an adult and I'm going to have a drink with dinner here and there, and
Yeah.
I'm going to have a drink before I do a heavy deadlift here and there. Like,
Tylenol's bad for you. Chill out.
It's all right.
Yeah. Anything in moderation is going to be fine.
Yeah.
And people on social media, because you're posting on your platform, they want to just shoot out their opinion because they think it's okay.
Yep.
And I'll just be like, dude, you can unfollow. Like, I'm doing what I like to do. And if I've posted something that you're not a fan of, you could just totally leave, man. I don't not like you. You could just take off.
Yep.
So it's hard.
So Julian, tell us what's up. What's coming up for you?
Yeah, we're getting close to
Oh.
about time to wrap up.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I'll
What's
keep it.
next for you?
So we have Clifford Lenox as our clothing line. We have 3 expos. We just have Anaheim, San Diego, and Body Power, which is exciting for us if you've ever been to the Body Power Expo
I
in
haven't.
Birmingham.
No.
It's incredibly cool. It's just because it's right in the middle of it all. We went to London right afterwards and sightsaw. Really cool. Sightseeing.
We do both of
Got
them.
it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. But that's really all we have planned. We've gotten to a point where, everything that we're involved with right now is our own personal businesses. So we're only traveling for stuff that is really gonna, like you talk about, man. When you travel, like, sucks the life out of you. It can be so much. It's so hard on you, especially when we have a family and stuff. So we're trying to pick and choose our battles and only travel to the things that are really gonna benefit us, and not just travel for no reason. So we have those 3 expos coming up, and other than that, man, we're just doing our normal thing and just keep chugging along.
Yeah. Where can people find you at?
So Instagram is just Smith.Julian. Facebook is Julian Michael Smith, and our site's thequadguy.com.
Okay.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking time out of your day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We had a hell of a time. Plus, we're just down the street, so let me know when you want me to come back and ruin another one.
Round 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, round 2.
No, we need to connect more often. Like,
Yeah.
it's been like once a year or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
It's always
So
weird when
it's-
you find out you are a 30-minute drive, and it's like, I feel like you're in another part of the world. It's like, I get to see your place from my house. It's good. Very cool.
Brandon, you got anything before we close her up?
No, I think just upcoming on our end is Advanced Athlete Prep course in April. That's in Portland.
Yeah. So anybody
Coming up
looking into
fast.
that, there's no prerequisites for that one.
Yep.
So, yep. All right.